Well, this may be a very short one, guys. Hi, Kristen.
Hi,
How are you?
good. How are you?
Peachy, why not?
That's a good way to be.
Why not? I'm alive, and that's half the battle. After that, everything's gravy. So there you go.
It's true.
So, gee, everybody's coming on late. I'm usually the one late. Everybody's waiting on me. I was early. Hey, Spence, how are you, sir?
Good, Nelson. How are you?
I'm doing great. I wish I had captured the little female dog that I've been trying to get for the past few weeks, and I hadn't seen her for 2 weeks, and just was pulling out of the neighborhood, and there she was. So
I
I
saw
spent
the
about
yeah, I saw your post on Facebook. Looks like you got her pretty close. She was
yeah.
thinking
I
of
mean,
interrupting you.
she was. You know, even with me standing up, and of course I didn't face her, she'd come behind me and go sniff my boot or sniff my leg. I could reach over and touch her nose and she'd sniff and stuff like that. But, she doesn't have a collar on. And anytime I had held anything in my hand that looked like a leash or a slip lead, she was a lot further away from me. She's very savvy on that. So
Hmm.
she's been seen around this part of the city for about 2 months now. And
Okay.
So, I've tried to through various, neighborhood groups, let everybody know that I'm trying to capture her and just kind of leave her alone. Don't do things, don't chase her off and all that. But later this afternoon, I met a couple of people I went back to that street that we were on, which is just a couple of blocks over in that neighborhood. And um, two people were walking their little tiny dog, what I call punt dogs. No, I'm kidding. and um, I stopped, talked to them a bit. They said they were actually feeding her
Oh,
uh, daily in their front yard. They put a bowl out, which was just the second, kind of between the first house in the videos and the second house that I was
okay.
in. It's in between those two. So I asked them to keep feeding her daily and, making sure that she stays in one spot. And I asked them if I could put a live animal trap in their front yard. They said, yeah, absolutely. So now I've got the location. We'll
Okay.
just we'll just go through the process. So yeah,
Oh,
uh,
good. I was going to
she's
ask if anybody was
she's
feeding her.
cute. Yeah, well, it's obvious that she is. She's not starved, certainly, and
Hmm.
although she likes the Vienna sausages that I've been feeding her, but she didn't like the sardines that I put in the bowl for her.
Oh,
She wanted to roll in them, but she didn't want to eat them. Which honestly, that's exactly what I have always found with stray or feral animals is they don't want to eat anything that's fish out
too
there.
pungent or something? Or why do you think that is?
It's Well, fish don't walk around, so you
Okay.
can't, and it smells fishy, so to speak. So
So it just
um,
seems unnatural to them.
it is unnatural to them, and that's what in the lost dog recovery course that I teach, I always warn people not to take anything fish with them to try to entice the dog or lure
Okay.
the dog. So beef or meat or any of that stuff. So I've got another can of shredded roast beef in my car for next time. So
That's awesome.
that should appeal to her. But yeah, Bosch was a great help today in getting her trust, and she kept trying to play with Bosch, and Bosch would just turn away, like, "Go away, kid, you bother me." So it was it was about a 2.5 hour process there, and toward the end there, when I gave her the ball, she wanted to kind of stay after the first interaction. She wanted to stay away, so and just chew on the ball. So I decided that was probably the end of it for that for
Mhm.
today, because if I push myself on her, she's just going to go further away. So
Mhm.
it was a good interaction. Gained a lot of trust. She remembered me from 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
and having Bosch there, of course, Bosch off leash, making his own decisions and staying by me and showing her that I'm completely trustworthy helps a
Mhm.
lot. So,
Mhm. That's awesome. Cool.
yeah, I wish I'd had, a medium sized, dog trap with me at the time, but it'll probably take a few days of setup and, get her used to the sight and scent of that, and then slowly bring the food inside of it. So we can get her. So
Okay.
she's
Cool.
been out there for 2 months. I'm just hoping she's pretty savvy about cars, because where I saw her is on a 6-lane divided
Oh
street.
my
That's a
God.
main street here in North Arlington. So, um, and we kind of went back into the neighborhood across that from us. So, but she's constantly traveling up and down that street on the sidewalk. So I'm just praying she doesn't get hit.
Yeah. Me too.
Really sweet dog though. Um, I think she's fairly young too. She doesn't look like she's more than a year and a half or 2 years old, frankly.
Hmm.
She or act like it. Okay, well, okay. So I see Kristen, Spence, Angela joined us. She's driving. Rachel, what the heck are you doing up at this time? Again? What is it? 1 o'clock in the morning there for you? Okay. Um,
Yes.
yes, it is. Okay. So how are you other than sleepy?
Oh, well, um, I needed to say goodbye to Haley, my favorite dog. Yeah. So that was,
Oh, okay.
yeah, the best thing to do.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, it's life, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So, okay. All right. Oh, there's another Emily on here, I see. Tracy Franken. Hello, Tracy Franken. Are you on here? Can't hear you if you are. Okay. Sharon, Julie. Okay. Anybody else? That looks like about it. Okay. Well, only had two, apparently two questions, and that's fine. And both of them were about scent and the glomerulonasal organ. So I will just do that, and then if you guys have any questions. So first one was basically about the if there's damage or poor nutrition in the past or whatever else, for the vulvar nasal organ, that talks about supplementing vitamin A and glutamate. Now, glutamate is, uh, honestly, it's the most plentiful. Um, it's actually throughout your entire system, all the cells, but glutamate is the most common neurotransmitter. It's an exciter, and glutamate is also to how the body. It's one of the main components of how the body makes GABA. So it's kind of an interesting chemical compound. I wrote a few notes here for you guys. It's anion glutamate acid, basically, which is in its role as a neurotransmitter. Um, let me go down through a couple of my notes. So as far as supplementing, it is through diet. And again, if you took the canine digestive system and nutrition course, uh, which believe Angela's got it online now. So anybody can take it at that point. But the foods that naturally contain glutamate is what you would supplement. One of those is mushrooms, and a lot of people use things like crushed or powdered turkey tail or those types of mushrooms for various things. And I talk about those in that nutrition course. But the best way is to use mushrooms that are still live and whole and not crushed and powdered. So if you want to supplement with mushrooms, but cheese is packed full of glutamates. So be careful on cheese though. And again, in the nutrition course, I go into that somewhat. A small little cube of cheese is like you eating an entire cheeseburger as far as the fatty content and what it does to the body to a dog. So be careful on that, on how much you put in at a time. So a few flakes, in the food over a relatively short period of time, a week or two, would supplement the glutamate with mushrooms. Tomatoes is another source, but I don't recommend those for dogs. A lot of the kibble manufacturers use or did use, I don't know how much they do anymore, but tomato pomace, which is basically you crush the life out of everything you possibly can get out of tomatoes, and that's what's left over. So it has little to no value, including in glutamates. So I wouldn't recommend tomatoes for dogs like that. But cheese and mushrooms are pretty good supplements for that, and that will help kind of rebalance and help the vomeronasal organ and, frankly, the entire nervous system. So I hope that answers that. It obviously, I mean, glutamates and GABA play a huge role in brain function in learning and memory. So if a dog has been in a deprived state, for instance, or like in a hoarding situation or a feral situation where they have been not developed well, or if their nutrition is horrible, or if they had some damage, genetically or otherwise, to the vomeronasal organ, you can supplement that. It's not going to ever come back to what it was 100%. So, okay, so that's one. I believe that says mention supplementing vitamin A and glutamate to help support the vomeronasal organ for dogs that may have damage to it. Do you use an actual supplement for that, or do you supplement those things through food and diet? And the answer is food and diet. That's the easiest and best way. It's more of a long-term aspect that you want to develop that feel for what it is and what it needs. So, because once again, I go back to the nutrition class where 70% of the immune system in dogs is what they eat. So you really have to work on that. And then the other question was, does a dog's sense of smell decline with age? Yes, it does, but it's still thousands and thousands of times better than ours, unless there's some infection damage or deterioration in the brain itself, not the nasal cavity itself. Very rarely, only one dog have I ever seen or had, and that was Tasha. And Tasha was one of the three
Hey
most.
Siri, text Angela Luke.
Whoop. um,
What's
anyway,
up?
Tasha was one of the most fearful, just abused, horrible, horrible dog as far as just terrified beyond terror that I ever had. And when she came to me, she was so bad they couldn't even really do much with her at all because she'd just, do this and try to hide her nose, her paws, and everything else. Um, so um, when I got her, I found that she had um, a horrible sinus infection. They didn't even know the difference because she was in such bad shape anyway. And she was the one that had been beaten with a baseball bat in the head and damaged brain and all that stuff. So they couldn't tell much, but I found within a couple of days that she had horrible nasal infection. And it took several weeks actually of heavy antibiotics to get her over that. And so her nasal system was damaged to where she really didn't act like a dog, first of all, behaviorally, obviously, but even in using the nose, even when she was, after she became trusting of us and was a happy dog for, her time with me, which was the rest of her life, which was about 4 years worth. Um, Even with that, um, she would never really use her nose. She didn't. It's kind of like she didn't identify as a dog because she couldn't be dog-like in her nature of using the nose because it was, as far as I could tell, she really couldn't smell much of anything. So, but age, yeah, it does deteriorate. And again, mostly it's that connection, it's the brain connection. It's not necessarily the receptor itself and the epithelium um, of that nasal cavity, but the receptors, it's more of the connection to the olfactory bulb and then the olfactory bulb to the other parts of the brain that give it value and importance and all of that. So uh, usually it's the brain breaking down, just like humans do in old age. So that's the only two questions that I received. So if anybody here wants to chime in and ask a question, jump in.
I had a question. You mentioned that food affects the immune system development of dogs differently than humans.
No, not any differently. Frankly, our immune system is also what we eat because your gut microbiome, the health of it really determines a lot of the mental and physical ability in your body because it's the nutritional source of breakdown of food, chemicals, all of that stuff to be absorbed in the body and the digestive system itself. And so we are very similar in that as far as the ability of our immune system. We are literally what we eat. I mean, that's an old saying, but in that way, we're also the health of our microbiome. And that's the important thing. Matter of fact, I posted on a group that I'm in. There were a lot of questions about immune system, and it happens to be a German Shepherd group that I'm a part of, included in, and there was a young dog, and several German Shepherds have gone through that under a year of age that have immune system issues, so much so that they have to get medications and stuff. So and people were talking back and forth about that. I will show you the one that I use. I don't know if I posted it. I don't know if you can see it here, but the company, probably not. The company is Prudence, and its Absolute Immune Health is, and it's a canine. Yeah, let's see. Can't really,
Okay,
there it is.
yeah.
It's
I'm gonna take a
backwards.
Picture of it.
So, and um, I believe you can get it direct. You can get it from Chewy or others, but
But
so
dogs, they're not different than humans necessarily. They're just, they
as
don't,
far as immune system
yeah,
capabilities, now the nutrition plays a massive major role in it.
yeah.
So they are different from us in a number of ways, and in the way that foods are processed, such as the amylase. They really can't process starches, so grains and things like that. Especially the primal instinctual ancient breed dogs, they have no amylase, not enough copies uh, to do any good. It's like us eating styrofoam. So stay away from grains for ancient breed dogs. Oh, okay. All right, let's see. Angela's good. Okay. Yeah, she just looked at the chat. So, okay. Wow. Oh, yeah, Rachel.
Yeah. I observed that when a dog is smelling the pee on a pillar from another dog, is there the directionality of the dog is smelling it from the bottom to above or from above to the bottom? Does that have any meaning? Or is it like, do they go from the lower scent to the more intense scent, like to the center point of the scent, or are they going the other direction? How do dogs like smelling the scent spot?
Yeah, I understand. It has to do more of a function with uh, they're trying to get the maximum amount of information across that, start to finish essentially. And the start to finish is different. It's not one, perfectly diluted source in the body itself. And, it may come out of the bladder, it may come with other information through the urethra, it may come with other information from even the tubes from the kidneys. If it's backed up full, almost into the kidneys. So they're getting all the information they can. So they're looking for all of that information. It's not a uniform source of information, is what I would say.
Okay.
So, going up or down or across or whatever else. That's why they spend a lot of time sniffing around at different places.
Okay. But it's
Does that make
not
sense?
like, yes. But it's not like if they start at like you have a post that the peas on, that it's like they start always at the bottom or at the ground where it hits the ground
Huh?
and then goes up, or from up to down, or is that kind of a preference of the individual dogs how it smells?
What I've seen is it's an individual preference, but it also has to do with where the dog is getting the information from in the first place. If they're used to air scenting, they may go up first and then go down. If they're used
Yeah.
to tracking
Mm-hmm.
on the ground, then they'll go to that and then up. So it's kind of a breed thing, and it's also the
Mhm.
size of the dog.
Okay, good,
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
And also I have another
Good
question.
questions. I love these questions.
Um, is there like some dogs when they are, I mean, I put up some food in the room and let Haley, it was Haley, she's an Amstaff, a smaller
Yeah.
one, and let her find the sausage pieces, right? So when she's smelling all this, she makes quite a loud noise, like you can
Mhm.
really. So is this also an indication on like does each dog has its personal characteristic of how he smells or the expression of the smelling?
Yes.
Or is it also an indication how excited the dog is? Like,
Well, not just excited, but but trusting.
Mm-hmm.
So a dog that sniffs, that does this, and you don't hear anything, it doesn't necessarily trust that environment or that situation or you in that environment. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to gain information, but without
Being
giving
noticed.
up too much. Okay. It's a strategy.
Mhm.
Okay. It's part of that strategy and tactics too, of, not trying to give away what you're doing or anything else. So there's because the more noise they have, the more focus they have, the more they trust this environment to be in, or
Mhm.
they agree with it and say, okay, this is what we're doing together.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, for instance, when we've done, you know, nose work, environmental agility, all those things, when you've been around me, and I do that even from a height, I will make sure that the dog hears me fully, the
Mm-hmm.
very loudly, so that they understand I trust the situation enough that I can focus on that scent and not worry about anything else in the environment. Then that entices them in to go, oh, it must be safe. So let me see what he's sniffing.
Yep. Oh, that's
Okay.
interesting. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
I had a quick question stemming
Yes,
from
sir.
a tactical and strategy live session. So
Uh-huh.
I was thinking, as soon as that session ended, I was thinking, is it, I also typed it in the message box, but I was thinking, are basically most, if not all, the behaviors we encounter, like with our clients' dogs, with our own dogs and stuff, tactics within a
Yes.
strategic, frame? I mean, everything. So, right, it's like, I mean,
Everything. It's survival. It is pure
Yeah.
survival.
So
Yes.
everything we're seeing, desired behavior, undesired behavior, whatever, is in the dog's brain a tactic. That's what I thought. And I just thought that it makes it easier to explain with a client, to get them to
Yeah.
think about a dog as a dog, the way you
Right.
teach and stuff. Then, this is what's happening, instead of you can see it and they can see it. That's persuasive, moves them a little bit further away from the fur baby camp, I think.
It does, yes. I mean, when you open the door, and people step through, they can't go back, because
Mm-hmm.
now they understand it from a completely different knowledge level, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. Okay. Yes,
Also,
sir.
I had another question about the give them a way out talk.
Okay.
The way that you described it and the way that you kind of like the example that you were using, in the situation of kind of, I think you're using Home Depot. You're using a dog, I guess, that was having a fear response, but was trying to escape. And so how would you approach that situation, or how would you deal with it if the dog instead chose a fear response of like barking and lunging at it or something like that?
Yeah. So once again, in understanding how the brain works, and how cycling of distance and the number of times, and reading the dog's brain, what it can handle at what level, at what distance. So what I would do is move the dog away from it calmly, to the point where we're not running away from it. We are placing ourselves strategically and tactically to the point where you don't have to worry about that weird thing moving around making noise. Now let's go back in, and I'm not going to push you over the edge. I'm going to get you closer, let you sniff. I'm going to show you. I may even walk up to it, touch it, and everything else. And then the dog will come in closer and then go, okay, that's far enough. And I let that dog determine it, rather than me force it to know that. Once it understands that I'm touching it, I'm not afraid of it, et cetera, that's good enough for the first time. come back into Home Depot the second time, you show them again, and they kind of go, yeah, I remember that. Third time, it's like, yeah, I don't care anymore. So patterns happen, and brains are pattern seeking, period. I mean, that's what brains do. They seek patterns. And that's where the aspect of cycling is so important in understanding how that works for brains. In course 4 that we just did, everything is about cycling and patterns. You do something 3 times, you go away, 5 minutes. That's all it is. Dog learns to go agree. You go do something else. You come back, you do that 1, 2, 3 again, and the dog goes, I got this. And it's done. You have trained that dog because you know why? Because it understands it, it gets it, it agrees with it, and it understands why you do that in these situations in this way. And that's a mind blower for all the trainers that just went through course 4. Uh, so, right, Rachel, right, Angela, because both of them were in it. So,
Yes.
yes, yeah. It just training is not with a capital T, guys. It's behavior with a capital B, and training is that much of behavior, of understanding the dog. It's so easy to train a dog. That's what people learn. It isn't everything. It's a tiny piece of everything. And learning that, you reach the dog so easily, and you gain trust instantly. It changes dogs. 3 days, you got them. They're fine. So, but that's for another time. So, okay, good. Somebody else had a question. Julie, did you have a question? I saw you.
Yeah, I put it in the chat because I'm driving to
Oh,
karate
okay. Okay.
to
Well, I
get
am
my
not
butt
looking at
kicked
the
by like
chat.
10-year-olds.
Good for you.
Oh, my arms got bruised by this little kid. Anyway, um, whole new experience. But I can't remember exactly the question I had, but I think it may have been in regards to giving the dog a way out and how you can use sniffing to do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And I was wondering if you could elaborate some.
Well, okay. So dogs morphologically are nose brain oriented, right? We are eye dominant, they are nose dominant. So they want to smell something. That's how they encounter the universe. That's how they understand the universe. That's a different format of understanding the universe than what we use, which is our eyes. Once again, our nose and our ears and our touch and feel corroborate what our eyes see. Whereas with a dog, all those things, the mouth, the taste, the ears, the feel, all those other things, the eyes support the understanding of the nose to the brain. It's an entirely different way of that structure. So if you can get a dog to use its nose, even faint using its nose, then you're going to give that dog that way out through using the nose, because I want it to be a dog. Eyes are predatory use. The simple rule I used to teach my clients was eyes is a predator, nose is a dog, and I want it to be a dog, not a predator to me or around me. So that was a simple rule for them to see once their dog is not interested in sniffing and they're only using their eyes, even whale eye, all those other things. They know that that dog doesn't trust the situation, whatever that is. And people, it doesn't matter what it is. And so by using the nose, the indicating even an indication from the dog, it's asking for the way out. And I'm going to give it the way out on that. I'm going to give it a yes, I agree with you using your nose, not your eyes, not your body positioning, not, not hackles, not all these other things. So when it does use its nose, that's going to be a yes most of the time. I don't know if that answers your question specifically, but yeah, I definitely want dog using its nose. If you saw the videos that I posted today of that dog, she was using her nose finally, and she'd come over. Bosch and I sat on the curb there for a while, and we got up. I even pulled a little bit of his undercoat out and left it there. When we got up and we went over towards the vehicle, then she came over and sniffed where I was sitting, sniffed Bosch's fur, sniffed where he was sitting, all of that. That was her corroboration of who we are, all the hormones and neurotransmitters in my sweat, and the scent that comes out. She was seeing who we are. She wanted to see whether there was any fear, trepidation on our part, whether there was any, aggressiveness through the neurotransmitters and the hormones that she smelled in the grass and on that curb from us, or from, was there any uncertainty on our part? And dogs smelling that uncertainty in those chemicals from us, they don't know if it's uncertain because we're trying to trap them, or if it's uncertain because we're fearful of them. Now, there are fear hormones that come out that they understand immediately. You have to understand that they have exactly the same number and types of neurotransmitters and hormones in their body. So when they feel a certain way, they have that scent of themselves. So when they smell the same thing in us, they know what we're feeling, thinking, all of those things from those things almost instantly. And so giving them the ability to see that we're safe, we're comfortable, we're not a threat, that's a way out right there. So does that help, Julie?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have one other thing. I'd like to get some input that I thought was interesting that happened the other day.
Okay.
We had snow, so that was cool. But in snow, I can see which animals have gone where in our yard.
Right.
And so we have like rabbits, coyotes. The horses weren't walking through. I didn't see horse prints. But what I found interesting was that Shiloh and Chardonnay were following the rabbit prints. Tipton was hunting the coyote. And so I'm assuming, I mean, like, I've been thinking about why that is, right? Besides that, my girls have probably never been living in the wild and don't have to worry so much about it. But
Yeah.
maybe Tipton knows that's more of a threat than the other dogs, so he's more interested in that.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And being protective. And he's kind of got that he doesn't have an aggressive protective aspect to him that I've seen. What he does have
No,
is, let's take care of, it's pro-social. Let's take care of the pack because I survive better with the pack.
exactly. He's like my alerter. Like, he'll tell me
Yeah.
when something's up, you know.
Yeah. So
But he doesn't want to go fight it himself. He wants to
right.
send
No,
me
he wants to,
into
yeah.
the slaughter.
That little old coyote killer, no. Uh, yeah, I had an interesting morning at 5 o'clock this morning, hearing screaming out in the backyard. And so I ran downstairs, and it was cold and I just had shorts on. But uh, Callie and Toffee were both out there against one of the fences, and I saw a raccoon head hop over the top of the fence. So it was obviously, it made it up on the fence and over the fence sitting on something just behind it. So, I bet it won't come back in our yard again. So, but that's definitely Callie and Toffee. Yeah. So, and it's interesting, Bosch wouldn't do that. And of course, Bella can't because she's 20 years old. So she just watch them. Let's see. Okay. What do we got? What do we got? Okay. Angela says, does going from feral to shelter in a cage affect vulnerable nasal organ? The VMO isn't damaged physically, but does it shut down?
That's a question from Julie Hart, by the way, that
Oh,
she had
okay.
sent me, and I lost
Ah,
track of it. So, but I
I,
found it
I,
just now, which is why I sent it.
okay. So it depends on the feral nature. From a hoarding case, that's a deprived environment because it's the same environment always. It doesn't matter if it's an outdoor caged in, environment where they smell everything there, but they smell the same thing over and over again, season in and season out. So in a way, it's a deprived environment and there's no learning going on other than artificial learning. Um, and thinking about, you know, that type of that type of environment where a dog is, trapped in a small fenced area, even outdoors in hoarding cases, um, their their ability to have interactions with others, it changes their brain. If they don't, that's a horrible torture to those animals. If they do, if they have other dogs in that or next door to each other, their encounters, then their brain changes more like what humans have become over the past 15,000 years, to where parts of their brain that aren't stimulated because there's nothing that ever changes in their environment, parts of their brain switch over to be about social interactions and social aspects, which is human like. And so in the dogs that I worked with over the years that were in that vein of things, um, they really they behaved more like humans in that they were inside their own head about the social aspects of things and the threats of social aspects more than the environment. And so that's what, when I talk about that in other courses, is it's about teaching that dog how to be a dog, essentially, and them learning that the environment is enriched, it's got lots of information. They need to stop predetermining in their own head based upon the social interactions of what's a threat and what's not. They need to see reality. And so the whole process of working with and rehabilitating dogs like that, changing, modifying behavior in dogs like that, is getting them out of being human like and being more dog like. So, and that takes the longest of any of them, frankly. Dogs like that. Oof. So as far as does it damage the VMO? No, I would say the nutrition and the possibility of not having, vitamin A and glutamates probably does more damage to the VMO than anything, frankly, because they've already had that developed and understanding and the connections with the brain, um, in an enriched environment, even if it is a feral situation, which is probably the most enriched environment. So kind of like that little female dog I'm trying to capture. So okay. Well, hi Lynn. Sorry, I hope we didn't mismanage the time here. So
Hi. No, it was me. Sorry I'm late.
that's all right. That's all right. You can pick up the video on the recording on that. We haven't had we only had 2 or 3 questions, and then I've just kind of been going around people if they wanted to ask a question about any of those 3 or 4 previous, they could. So that's what we've been doing. And I think we're pretty close to the end. So, well, except for Rachel.
Yeah, well, if you give me the chance to ask questions, then I do, right?
Yeah.
Strategic tactics. I had this little dog Rolf with me. He's a dachshund mix, and he's asocial in many ways. But one thing is that he's not sniffing. When I have him with other dogs, he's not going to sniff their pee, which usually dogs do, right? One dog's pees and other dogs go and smell it and pee over it, whatever. He doesn't do that. And now for me, is this the question is more from the aspect of, is this a strategy? What would he gain out of it? Or is it a tactic? How would that fit together? In my understanding so far, it is like he's not safe enough to go sniff, because in the moment he's sniffing, he's giving up control that he wants to maintain in the whole pack, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I
He's guarded. He's basically guarding himself. His behavior is guarded. I will put it that way. Right.
Yeah. And how would you approach it? I mean, I tried so far.
You can't do that directly. You can't
Okay.
do that directly. You have to show. They have to change their understanding of trust, basically. So it's all of the little things, is the cumulative value of everything you do with and around and for them, and them with you. So when a dog does something, this is something that humans don't do very much of, including trainers, even good ones, that they don't. I'll use the word thank the dog or acknowledge the dog for being pro-social for us. You have to recognize that the dog is doing something and you agree with it. And you're agreeing with it not because it's what you want, but it's because what is necessary for, we'll call it the pack. In other words, by you doing this action, you're also taking care of me. You're looking out after me and my other dogs, and et cetera, et cetera. So that psychological bonding, then, when you acknowledge that to a dog, it changes their whole understanding of that dynamic of being together with others. It no longer becomes, I'm just an individual in a group that I've got to watch all, not just the environment out here, but all of these entities too. Instead, when you acknowledge and you go, good boy, good girl, whatever, and they observe you doing that with the other dogs and people, that, again, associative learning, by you doing that and the dogs feeling better, and the chemicals from your brain, all those other things that tell them, hey, this is a good thing. So when you acknowledge that dog, then they associate that with what you did with those other dogs and people. Okay. So there's a lot of learning going on all the time. That's why I say, you are having a conversation with a dog 100% of the time you're around them, period.
So inviting him to sniff the spot where the other dog has peed would not help in this moment, or would it help because he starts to trust me that nothing is going to happen, that he sniffs?
If he sees you not looking at him, but looking out for him, and he accepts that.
Yeah.
Most people are going to go, hey, come over here, and they're staring at the dog in the spot. And that's not a good thing, because they're not going to come up. But the more you stare at something, the more you are, in their mind, what humans would call possessing that spot. In other words, if you go to it, I'm telling you, this is mine, I'm going to kill you, So instead, you have to invite them and then go like this.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, I'm scanning, I'm looking out for you so that you can go and sniff this spot. And you might look back and remind them and go, hey, right here.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the same dog.
If you go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your
Well,
sentence.
if you watch the videos and so that dog, that female dog, in a very short amount of time, and I made sure that it understood Bosch off leash with me. You know, we interacted together the normal way that we do, where, you know, we're partners literally. And so that partnership was obvious in the trust and that we had with each other and the communication we had constantly with each other. And, you know, if I started to walk and I just moved my hand and Bosch would be there, that dog, within 3 times of us just moving from one location to another and me using a hand signal, the dog started picking up on my hand signals and going with us.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even see that a little bit in the videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So the same dog is also not playing at all. You can, I mean, with a toy like a ball or a Choliac that I had for him. So is this the same thing that he's not trusting enough the environment that he, I mean, you can roll
probably
the
doesn't
ball around.
understand. Yeah, I mean, he probably doesn't understand the purpose of that. So he hasn't been engaged with and enriched in his understanding and environment.
Yeah.
You know, there's no joy in life to him.
No, not much. I mean,
So, yeah.
at least he's not biting me anymore, so that's a,
well, well, there you go.
that's my joy with
Small
him.
favors.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, the way you're describing it, no, there is no joy in that dog's life. And so it doesn't see the purpose in engaging and doing those things. It has never had that opportunity before. So it's
Yeah.
a slow process to introduce those types of things
Mhm.
to dogs like that. May never play with an object, doesn't see the purpose of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he is a really good mice hunter. I mean, it's amazing to watch him, how he's go towards, I mean, he's sniffing it, and I'm also think he's hearing the mice,
Yeah.
and then how he's placing his paws down, I mean, up in the air slowly, and it's almost like he doesn't want to make the ground shattering or something
Right.
that the mouse something, I mean,
Yes.
and then he goes into it. So I thought with the Joliac maybe I can a little bit tickle his prey drive, but
Mhm.
nope. He's like
Yeah.
looking at you.
Yeah, there's no point in expending energy for something that isn't real.
Yes, it
That's the
looks,
way he sees it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I need
Yeah.
to see how much I can do with him. He's only here twice a week for the next couple of
Okay.
weeks. So. But
Okay.
he's, of
Yeah.
course, a
Just
very interesting dog to work with.
yeah.
So,
See what, you know, what I would recommend is just see what does interest him. And, you know, I mean, if he's a mouser, that's certainly going to interest him. You know, and maybe that if you engage with him in that type of stalking behavior
okay, yeah.
that he sees over to the side,
Mm-hmm,
and then
mm-hmm.
let him make the initial shot at it,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and don't come up behind him because you know
No,
he'll misinterpret it. But at least
yeah.
you're doing the stalking, you're joining him in that. That at least gives you that first, you know, engagement of, oh, I understand you and you understand me. The more, you know, again, keep in mind, if humans would keep in mind that your overriding factor at trying to reach a dog is to be pro-social to it so that it understands the value of that, so it is pro-social to you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everything else after that is just techniques and stuff like that, but keep that in mind, period.
Yep.
So you always you join them in their world first, because obviously there's a gap already between them and humans. So why not be more dog-like for them to understand you so that they can trust you even a little bit?
Yeah.
Nelson, would you say that
Yeah.
it's harder to gain the trust of a dog that you've presented yourself as, a typical human for a long period of time? You know what I mean?
Yes, because you've already established the dog is already, it's just like anybody else.
Yeah.
If you came in as we'll say an alcoholic, and then you stop drinking, everybody still sees you as an alcoholic for a long time.
Yeah.
So the 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 aspect of that is when you're doing this is what humans look like to dogs, right? And so when you finally go this, yeah, it takes for a while for them to trust you, and it also takes a while for you to not overreact, because you're so used to being human, doing all this emotional, stuff. And instead, if you'll work on when you change, when you are calm and composed, you cannot go back to the overreactions of what you would normally do as a human. You have to go that much. Flip, that's it. Because that contrast is clarity. Okay. And contrast between a straight line and a tiny little blip, you got the attention of the dog. If you're like this, how do you get the attention of the dog? You have to go way up here. And that's what humans do. And they make huge mistakes and huge gaps between us and dogs. So the more you can stay calm, composed, I've got this. And if there's one little blip, boy, that the dogs notice instantly. So the more you can be this, composure under fire, no matter what happens, you've got that. That's leadership. And dogs observe it, they trust it if you prove yourself. Okay. So
How do you deal with the fact that, biologically as humans, we are programmed also to have our own fear response? So, let's say someone bangs on my door, my hormones, my fear is going to increase. It's instinctual for us. So is calm and composure then to calm yourself down, or
you have to work on yourself, yes. And someone bangs on my door, I'm going after them. I'm a predator. I have no fear, zero. I don't fear one human or one dog on earth. And I only have one emotion, so as everybody has learned, it's been around me. So I learned as a 17-year-old in training, 18-year-old in Southeast Asia, crawling around in jungles, that you can only control how you respond to things. You can't control anything else, nothing else. The fallacy of human beings want to control outcome of everybody else, which is politics and all the other things, news and all that stuff. That's trying to control outcome. And you cannot. So the only thing you can do is control yourself. And if you can't control yourself, you have nothing. There is nothing in life that is going to be that it will end up always good. Mostly good happens. But when bad happens, and if you're not in control of your own mental state, I'll put it that way, not even emotions, just a mental state. Okay. So And this is one of the reasons, there's so many reasons why I recommend to people to take a martial art, a real martial art. Mental health, physical health, your spiritual health, if you will. It changes you because you've learned to deal with stuff literally coming at you. And you recognize if something's coming at you at 40 miles an hour right here, and I move this far and I do this, no big deal. It didn't hurt me. It can be right here and it didn't hurt me. Instead of going, like this. Okay. And that's one of the reasons that something like a heavy physical activity where, you're just like this and you're still thinking this way. Dogs are predators and they respond. If they're in a natural state, they're going to respond for how they see their environment in level of threat as well as level of their pro-social pack, whether or not they're capable of taking care of a situation. How many do we have? How many do we trust? Who's going to take care of what aspect while I take care of this aspect? Okay. I talk about prosociality being like a football team or a special ops group. Everybody knows what everybody else's job is, and we trust them to do that job. That's prosociality. And so I'm not going to, if I'm the wide receiver, I'm not going to go grab the ball from the quarterback and throw it to somebody else. That's not my role. And so you have to place that dog, that purpose, and you in a situation where you handle the situation. Whatever your part of it is, you have to handle it. It's your obligation to do so. And the obligation's not just to others, but to yourself. We can go heavy into philosophy here and psychology, but that's literally what it is. So you work on yourself to compose yourself. It's not fake, and it's not you don't fake it till you make it type thing. You understand consequences. The easiest way, honestly, to not worry about things is to come to terms with your own mortality.
And so then I agree completely with everything, but at our basic instinct, we still have fear responses to biologically keep us alive. And so, your amygdala fires.
True.
Are you saying you would like for people to get to the point that they don't even have that fear response, or like
Not very many people are ever going to do that. I know about 2,000 guys on earth that are like that because I'm one of them.
And so would it still count if you have that response, but then you can still go be composed and take care of it in the situation?
Sure, you got street cred then, but it depends on how fast. So, initially, and you're not expecting that to happen instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it's what is the time frame of I'm scared and then I have to take care of it anyway. And then that shortens and shortens and shortens to when you may get, boom, a response, and it's literally a few microseconds and you're already on it. And that's what guys like me trained and do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, literally we're biology, neurobiology, the reason those things happen is because boom, it's that flush. Now, how do you respond to it? That's the key.
Yeah. That's what I was asking is the flush is not, maybe some, but most people, we can't help it, but it's how you respond to that rush of cortisol or whatever it is that we're
correct. No, that is exactly right. But then you just breathe out and go do it anyway.
Right. Okay.
And all of that fades away. It's the mental state. It's literally your mental state. You go, okay, I got to handle this now. Loud noise, boom. You just go to it. You don't run away from it. You don't get shocked. You don't go, what's going to happen?
That
You
makes-
train yourself to do that. And again, a martial art or a heavy type of, and by heavy, I don't mean, you have to have massive, amounts of, you're puking after every workout type thing. That's not what I'm talking about. But a study of yourself through something physical, because we are physical animals, or mental and physical. And without the physical part, you don't get some of the mental part. Okay. Look, you're the size of a bear compared to a dog.
It's true.
And that's the way I think of myself around dogs is, yeah, no, you're not going to do that. You want to come up and bite me? Guess what? That's going to be a bad day for you. And the dog instantly knows that because it doesn't smell, or it doesn't see any fear, uncertainty, doubt, trepidation, nothing in me. And instantly they smell, oh, this guy's coming after me if I do that. That's the believability. And you have to have that to be more effective at communication. It's all about communication. Okay.
Yeah.
So does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Good.
And just to say, most of us are not Nelson Hodges and
No,
can't.
don't do that.
Well, I just want to put a reality check on that because at times, students, and I say this because I was guilty of it years ago. I want to be like that. I want to have that confidence. That's what, and it's not that I can't get to that point, but my life experience, my knowledge, my capabilities are completely different than yours. And that is okay. And being aware of what we are able to handle and what we are able to follow through with and have intent and back it up by
Right.
being aware of our own abilities, capabilities, knowledge, strength, etc., and improving upon that as well, right? So that's part of being honest with ourselves about how we can navigate through that day to day with that dog, right? So that's all.
Yes, surviving severe things is not just walking into it stupidly. Ever. That's just happenstance and luck if you happen to. There were 5 times in my life, by all rights, I should have been dead. But I survived them all. I learned from each and every one of them. I was not walking in blindly. It was stuff I absolutely had to do and be there. So, uh, so every day to me is literally a gift. It's a blessing every day. I should have been dead a long time ago. So that I made it to 70, I am happy. I never made it. I never thought I'd live past 21. So every day is a blessing. And if it's my time, it's my time. But by God, I'm trying to do the right thing for the right outcome. It's not about me and my ego. It's about what's best for all of us. And that's how I approach it with dogs and people. Okay. So I hope, don't mean to lecture too much on that, but that's an important concept. It really is.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Okay, well, if nobody else has anything else, this was kind of a free-for-all, enjoyable thing. I hope people get something out of it, and the people who watch this later. So, and a few have come in and out through this. So I know that some people had to leave and others came in late, but that's fine. Again, the recording will be there probably tomorrow. It pops up whenever it pops up, and I send it on to Angela and she takes care of it. So I wanted to thank you guys. Appreciate your time again. And that's it. Angela, did you have something to say?
No, thanks so much. And this is always a great learning experience. And I actually like a little bit of the free for all questions that pop up with exception to the topics that we've discussed in the past. Because there's just always questions to be answered. So I like that we allow for that, give space for that. So it's very good.
Okay, and let's see, what's our next one? It is December 20th, and that is contrast is clarity. That's a huge subject, guys.
That one's going to be good.
Yeah, yes, it will be.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, you have a good evening or morning in your case, Rachel. Get some sleep. All right.
Yeah, thanks. I will go back to bed.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.